Everyone online has been banging on about the Pluribus pilot, claiming it to be the best pilot of all time, giving it super high Metacritic scores into the 90s. So that's a big claim, the best pilot of all time. And that kind of claim spreads fast because a pilot isn't just an episode, it's a promise.
Yeah, boy.
A good pilot says, trust me. This world is worth living in for the next 10 hours, 50 hours, or into the foreseeable future. So why is Pluribus getting this level of praise? And how does it compare to other heavy hitters that we've seen in recent years? Shows like Severance, The Last of Us, or Succession. Let's break it down. First, let's talk about the mechanics of praise. When a pilot is called the best, several things usually happen at once. So 1, a crystal clear concept is shown in the first 10 minutes. 2, the pilot gives us a character we care about immediately, or at least are interested in. And 3, the direction and sound design create a mood that feels original. And 4, social media actually has some short and quotable things to clip and share about it. So Pluribus hit all 4, knocked it straight out of the park. So what viewers are pointing out is the craft and the timing. The pilot introduces a world that's strange enough to be intriguing, but simple enough to explain in a single sentence. Then it immediately gives us a human compass, someone whose small choices reveal larger stakes. And it does that while staying visually distinct. The show doesn't scream at you, it invites you quietly. And that restraint feels rare these days, in my opinion. That combination, idea, intimacy, and style, is what turns interest into obsession.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
A scene becomes a short clip on social platforms, critics pick it up, influencers call it brilliant, and then a feedback loop pushes it into the cultural conversation. But let's not mistake buzz for a final verdict. The title, Best Pilot Ever, is very subjective. It depends on the axis you value. Let's compare Pluribus to 3 pilots that often show up in those best of conversations, especially in recent years. We're not bringing up I Love Lucy or, Cheers, which probably wouldn't be in there anyway. So let's compare and see what each one brings to the table. Before we move on, don't forget to like and subscribe because it will really help the channel. So first, let's talk about Severance. This pilot is textbook. It's a textbook example of concept-first TV. Its core idea, split work and private memory, is both eerie and immediately explainable. The pilot is patient but precise. It reveals just enough to make you ask questions, and it makes the consequences feel inevitable. Severance wins when you prize intellectual novelty. It's the kind of pilot where you can explain the hook in a tweet and your friend will be like, oh yeah, I have to watch that at some point. Conceptually, it's really hard to beat, and they did a great job with it. I actually checked it out after someone said it was like the video game Control. Next up, we have The Last of Us. Okay, and I know a lot of you are already screaming, this is not the best show, but we're talking about just pilots here. So if you measure greatness by emotional tone, The Last of Us pilot still sets a really high bar. And that's great in part to the game. The game opens with an emotional punch to the face. The production sacrifices nothing to land an emotional kick. Cinematography, performance, small human details. For audiences who watch to feel, that first episode was surgical. It made characters feel inherited, lived in, and human from the start. That's really rare with a pilot. Emotion is sticky. It makes people obsessed in a different way than a concept does. So we've got concept versus emotion. How do we judge which is the best? Next, let's talk about Succession. This one isn't flashy for concept or overwrought with melodrama. It wins by voice. Its pilot introduces characters so sharply drawn, with dialogue so economical and cruel, that we immediately know how it will play out. Succession is a masterclass in tone. It's satire that stings. If you prize smart writing and cultural commentary, then this one might be your pick. You can see where I'm going with this. So where does Pluribus fit into this taxonomy of pilots? It's rare because it occupies multiple axes. It's not just a clever premise, and it's not just emotional intimacy. It has a tone that's confident and a lead character who's both empathetic and mysterious. It gives something that social media loves. It gives a very clippable idea and something that, critics can latch onto. But there are caveats. A pilot that does many things well can still be outmatched later by a show that sustains that promise. Severance kept expanding the concept in more richer and richer ways. The Last of Us followed through emotionally across the episodes of season 1 at least. Succession deepened its characters into an entire language of cruelty and affection. So the Pluribus pilot may be magnificent right now, but best ever implies an ongoing payoff. Like we said, it's a promise. That's the tougher test. And after watching episode 2, the payoff from episode 1 probably has diminished a little bit for me. Let's be blunt. If you value idea first TV, you're probably going to be a Severance person. Probably that's me too. If you value emotional hits, you're probably going to go for something like The Last of Us. But again, has that been ruined by later episodes? And if you value a writerly voice, then maybe you would go for Succession. Pluribus feels like a hybrid. It borrows the best mechanics of each and packages them in a distinct visual and tonal wrapper, which is why people are getting excited. Because it feels rare to find a pilot that's conceptually interesting, emotionally present, and tonally disciplined all at once. Another important thing to remember here is that best applies differently to different cultures and is heavily dependent on the timing. So Severance landed in a labor culture that was full of anxieties about work-life balance.
Terrific.
And it was perfect for that time. The Last of Us touched on a pandemic-shaped society that was, worried about what the future held. And Succession rode a decade of billionaires and media collapse. Pluribus seems to be landing into a moment when audiences are hungry for something that understands both our tech anxieties and our emotional fatigue. That alignment deserves praise. So how should we talk about this as viewers? I'd argue for cautious celebration. Enjoy the pilot, enjoy all the clips for the moment, but praise the craft. Reserve Best Ever as a provisional title, something to test across the season, because true greatness isn't declared at the pilot. Is earned by consistency. So if you want my take in just one line, Pluribus's pilot is the kind of television that reminds you what a pilot can do. It invites you in, it hooks you, it has a promise of mystery and heart. Whether it becomes the best pilot ever depends on what you value. Novelty, feeling, or a voice, and whether the show keeps delivering. For now, it's a beautiful, rare thing. A pilot that makes you want more, without ever having to shout for your attention. And that's the best kind of promise a show can make. Guys, that's all I have to say on this. So if you like these videos, please like, share, and subscribe.